The Pyramids of Egypt. The pyramids of Egypt were built during a time when Egypt was at its highest peak with wealth and power as a nation. Being one of the greatest man-made pieces of art in history, the wonderful structure the pyramids of Egypt display were due to the control, power, command, and management of the leaders of Egypt's society. These ancient monuments were built centuries ago by many slaves. The pyramids took over decades to build. There are so many resources on how, when, and who created such a beautiful work of art. These pyramids were researched, analyzed, and worshipped by many, many Egyptians. I've come to find out many people know the ins and outs of how the pyramids were built. They dug deep into the past, went and researched. Many articles about how it started to its reasoning on why it was built and how it managed to stay in a somewhat stable structure till this very day is unknown to me. My goal in this paper is to explain the depth of the pyramids, its details about each of its reasonings on its creation and existence. To be clear enough of the growth of the pyramids of Egypt, I have separated the information into 4 different sections. In the first section, I provide brief information on who was responsible for the leadership on creating the magnificent pyramids. The pharaoh, and his role and leadership, his kingship, and how he used that power to create such beautiful art. In the second section, I shall discuss information on how it was created, the tools, substance, and diagram on its step-by-step creation into the forming the pyramid. In the third section, I provide information on the slave workers who did the hard work, who went and broke their back just to create such wonderful art. Without the slaves, the pyramid wouldn't have even existed. And I shall go more into depth with that information. Fourth section discusses the importance of why the people of Egypt worshipped the pharaohs and its reasoning of existence. Pharaohs had a unique position in creating the pyramids of Egypt. There were many pharaohs, many famous, well-known pharaohs. The pharaohs were looked at in a different point of view. The Egyptians somewhere seen them between human and a chosen leader sent from God to help guide them down the right path. Due to that and people's beliefs in it was in everyone's interest to satisfy the pharaoh, even after he has died. He shall still be worshipped. After his death, he was said to become god of the dead, known as Osiris. The upcoming new pharaoh became Horus, a protector, or as they say, falcon god of the sun god Ra. The pyramid's smooth, angled-sided symbolized the rays of sun and were designed to help the king's soul ascend to heaven and join the gods, particularly the sun god Ra. All pharaohs that had ruled back in the famous ancient Egyptian times all left a phenomenal legacy. Although there were many pharaohs, only a select few had reached their full potential in that legacy. Out of that 10 pharaohs that left quite a legacy, 2 of them created pyramids that were magnificent. Khufu created the largest pyramid of the pyramids of Egypt, and Sneferu was behind many of Egypt's pyramids. There are 2 theories surrounding the construction of his pyramid. The first theory, suggested by experts, suggests that Khufu's slaves were forced under daily hard labor to work until the task was completed. As for Sneferu, he constructed the pyramid Maidum, which was a 7-step pyramid. This pyramid was a huge failure, but no matter how much he failed, he kept going. Didn't give up on making many more pyramids that still exist till this day. The pyramids of Egypt, as I've said, were mostly created by very successful pharaohs. Khufu and Sneferu. As said, Khufu created the largest pyramid of Egypt. He organized and constructed the pyramid, but sadly his tomb got robbed. Until this day, has not been discovered. Being that his most successful pyramid was built by hundreds of skilled workers who wanted to be a part of such a spectacular creation, there weren't much depth into his background of the famous Khufu's large pyramid. The Great Pyramids of Giza are some of the most magnificent man-made structures in history. Their massive scale reflects the unique role that the pharaoh or king played in ancient Egypt society. Though pyramids built from the beginning of the Old Kingdom to the close of the Ptolemaic Pyramid in 4th century AD, the peak of the pyramid building began with the late 3rd dynasty and continued until roughly the 6th. Snefru, known as He of Beauty, he, a king, pictured building the perfect pyramid. In saying so, he went and did so by creating the Pyramid of Midian. Sniffer started with building a step pyramid with a height of 42 meters with an entrance 30 meters up at the north side. Most pyramids have an entrance at the north side. The entrance points at the North Star, the only star that roughly stays at the exact same spot in the sky. And to the ancient Egyptians, that symbolized eternity. On the outside of that pyramid, the steps were made of limestone, and because of that, it was seen as a perfect pyramid. Sadly, it failed in the end when the limestone gave in and shifted, which made it useless and forgotten. There still isn't enough proof to say that he himself, Snefru, created or constructed that perfect pyramid. How the pyramids of Egypt were built by the slaves. Who worships the kings? Sadly, part of that isn't true. There are articles out about how the slaves' bodies were recovered and was said to have been labor workers instead of slaves. They got paid for what they did. It wasn't forced. But then there are articles, movies, lots of info on how the Egyptian slaves were forced to worship the pharaoh, which is considered a god to them. We shall never know where or not the slaves were real, or if the slaves were real or not. They were labor workers, as said in many articles. But some information on the workers were that they would have about 27 years to complete a good pyramid, a perfect pyramid. Pyramid builders began to inscribe written accounts of the events in the king's reign on the walls of the burial chamber and the rest of the pyramid's interior. The final great pyramid builders were the Tepi II in 2000 BCC. As for the slaves, they weren't slaves. There were rumors that many pyramid builders came from a poor Egyptian family and were looked at as honorable people for doing what they did, building. Because of building the pyramids, those workers got to be buried near the tomb as an honor for being a part of the creation of the pyramids. No way would they have been buried so honorably if they were slaves. So what other way would they have been? Labor workers? These labor workers was found in the mud brick tombs of the Giza pyramids. So was it made up all along? Were the slaves actually recognized and honored for doing what they did? The final touch to the final pyramids was built by men who were treated as well as any slaves would have been. They got fed meat on a daily and had everything planned out to get it accomplished. It took 10,000 workers more than 30 years to build a single pyramid. A tenth of the workforce of 100,000 that Herodotus wrote of after visiting Egypt around 450 BC. The importance of why the pyramids of Egypt exist? Well, they were built by the Egyptians as they were meant for pharaohs and their queens to be put into a tomb, exactly special for them. From small to large, many pyramids were created for pharaohs by the Egyptians. They were evenly scaled, but they ranged in different sizes from the beginning to the very end of its time. Approximately about 8 pyramids which have been created in ancient Egypt. These is where 3 of the largest pyramids were found. They were the best, and they kept intact so far. Of course, as said before, the most famous and largest pyramid was by Khufu. His pyramid is called Great Pyramid. His Great Pyramid is being remodeled into more being one of the greatest pieces of art. Many questions come flying in. Should the Great Pyramid be touched? The Great Pyramid was a part of a complex construction that included a special walkway, 2 temples, other pyramids, boat pits, and the masters and nobles. The people of Egypt worshipped the pharaohs, not only because they looked at them as a king or because to them they were considered a leader sent from God. These builders or slaves, either way, they got something out of building. Many bodies are found in tombs and buried near pharaohs. That seems like a very honorable thing to have been offered. Most of the time, the king was to have a tomb for just him and his queen. To conclude my essay, if you haven't kept it up, it has taken many resources, many builders, and for how long it took to build, It took over 100,000 workers who worked every day. The pyramids of Egypt are very well known till this very day. All known as the main point in Egypt believes it wasn't easy, nor was it just challenging. It was a huge task to take on. Having to build so many at once or having to build the largest to give the labor workers no choice, many went on and waited their entire lives building. Having my goal in this paper is to explain the depth of the pyramids, its detail about each of its reasonings on its creation and existence. The existence of the pyramids of Egypt is due to God. Without him, the Egyptians would not obey the kings. There would be no power. Thankfully, there was which is why there are many magnificent pyramids due to the beliefs of the Egyptians in believing that the pharaohs were their leader.